Chrissy felt like she could fall over and die from exhaustion. She got here as fast as she could, first thing in the morning, and in this heat. No, no school. That's too much for me. I'm ready to go home for today, she said to no one in particular. She breathed heavily as she looked up and down the roadway, not seeing the bus. Good. I hope that means Cammy is still home. She turned her shoes off and walked across the roadway, looking for Cammy or any sign the bus may be here soon. That's weird. Normally, Cammy would be outside waiting to get picked up. I hope she's not sick, Chrissy told herself, trying to stay hopeful, but the sinking feeling in her gut just wouldn't let her. She quickly jogged up the path to Cammy's house and peeked through one of her windows on the front. It was completely dark inside, like there wasn't anyone at home. Her heart started pounding as panic quickly rose in her chest and her mind started swarming with bad thoughts. If Cammy wasn't here at her own house, then where was she? Had the bus already came by here and picked her up? Had she gone somewhere to spend some more time with her parents before school? Maybe she found an entirely different way to school and Chrissy just needed to think for herself. She pulled herself away from the window and tried to clear the fears from her mind as she walked to the front door. Never hurts to try, right? She knocked gently on the door and stood back, waiting for some kind of response. When nothing happened, she knocked again, a bit more forcefully this time, hoping that anyone in the house might hear her, if they were at home at least. A minute later, Chrissy still just stood there, pointlessly waiting for the door that may or may not ever open. Great, so what do I do now? Chrissy asked herself as she sat down, feeling defeated. With no way to find the bus, she couldn't catch it to get on it. Without Mom and Dad, she couldn't just walk into the school. Kids of all ages rode the bus together, but they didn't all go to the same schools. There were 5 different schools in Hoovooden, and which one you went to depended on your family and your age. If you were from a working family, you went to the lower schools, under for the kids or over for the teens. If you were from a trading family, then you went to one of the middle schools, under for kids, over for the teens, of course. You know the drill. But if you were from an owner family, then you went to the top school. All of the top kids went to the same school despite their age, since, there's only like 20 of them in the whole city. Despite their names, all the schools are on the same level since, the ground is flat and even. The city was designed that way so that no hover vehicles would just hover downhill and get lost. Chrissy's dad works on one of the crews responsible for following these designs, which is why Chrissy attends the lower schools. Due to concerns over kids trying to sneak into the wrong schools, she would need her mom or dad to show proof of class so she could get even into the school, unless she was on the bus. There's only like 10 other kids my age. Why can't they just remember us and keep up? Chrissy sulked to herself. Her whole school could fit into just 2 buses, as there really weren't many students at the schools, certainly not the top school. Hoovooden had tried to advance as much as it could, but just couldn't have the population of some of the larger cities. Chrissy felt despair grip her as she sat down on the step and put her head between her knees. She sat there for a minute, trying to rack her brain for any kind of solution, when suddenly she heard a door close. Dang, you look like trash. Muffin? As she heard those words, Chrissy could not even register them as mean or not. All she could think was that her friend was actually here. Cammy, you're here. I'm so glad to see you. I thought you might have already left for school, and I had no idea what I was going to do, and I already had this super terrible morning, and my new e-visors got broke, and I forgot my breakfast, and... Chrissy stopped talking as Cammy held her hand up, which had a muffin in it. Muffin, breathe. Muffin, breathe, she said as she forced Chrissy to take a bite. Chrissy tried to continue talking, but couldn't get any words past the muffin and found only crumbs coming out of her mouth. Soon, she found herself just trying her best not to choke, since Cammy wasn't even giving her an opportunity to take a normal bite. No. She managed to push Cammy's hand away and coughed out what looked like an unhealthy amount of muffin to begin breathing. These things are huge. Are you trying to kill me? Chrissy asked while looking at all the evidence she just cleared out of her throat. Only with kindness, Cammy said with a big smile on her face, and Chrissy couldn't help but smile back at her. Oh, I can't stay mad at you, Chrissy said as she gave Cammy a gentle hug. As she pulled away, she looked down at the pile of crumbs. I can always stay mad at you, Blueberry. Yet another breakfast you've ruined. Cammy looked down at the broken pieces of the muffin in her hand, inspecting the blue spots on it. She suddenly screamed, "My muffin! Why my muffin?" before slowly sliding to the ground and pouting. You just tried to suffocate me with it. What did you think was going to happen? Cammy looked up at her face turning red. That one wasn't yours. It was mine. I was going to eat it and let you choke on the other one. How could she manage to say something so evil and cute at the same time? You can just eat the one you got from me. It's probably poison or something anyway, right? Cammy stopped pouting and stared off into the distance. Poison? She said in a creepy voice before she stood up and stared at Chrissy without blinking. Wait, I didn't mean it. Chrissy backed up towards the roadway as she looked at Cammy. It was giving her shivers down her spine. You think I would poison you? Cammy was still standing in the same spot, but had pulled another muffin with clear wrapping out of her bag. No, of course not. You're a great cook. You'd never use poison. Cammy smiled and started walking towards her. That's right. When my cooking kills you, not if, it will be because you can't stop eating it. Remember? She held out the muffin right in Chrissy's face, who took it not wanting to be force-fed again. She took a bite, not even asking what flavor this one was. See, that doesn't taste like poison. It's good, isn't it? Chrissy nodded her head vigorously, not just out of fear. Yeah, this is amazing. Did you make this? Chrissy couldn't help but finish the whole thing already, wishing there were more. Of course. My kitchen found this recipe based on what muffins you normally like, and I tried it out. You really like it? She asked with big eyes, watching Chrissy expectantly. Yes, that thing was amazing. Do you have another? Cammy laughed, turning back towards the house. Yeah, hold on. I wouldn't have just made one. I made so many that... Her sentence was cut short by the sound of a horn as the bus was visible on the roadway, only a short way away. I'm sorry, Chrissy. You can get dropped off here after school and just take the rest home with you, okay? Chrissy let out a defeated groan, just wishing she could have another one of those sweet muffins. You dangle such moneyed treasure in my face, only to make me suffer? Fine, I will suffer for your test of school, but I expect a reward. Chrissy walked slowly to the road, watching the bus approach, waiting to give the driver an earful. Cammy walked past her, then stopped by the road and looked back. You will get a whole batch of muffins all to yourself. How about that? She asked as the bus stopped in front of them, its doors slowly open. There can never be enough muffins. Chrissy glared up at Mr. Cohen, who was having trouble containing his laughter. Fancy seeing you here. I thought you lived a few streets back. This old mine doesn't work like it used to. I think I stopped and didn't see anyone. You must have been here the whole time. He gave a big, toothy smile that made Chrissy want to throw her bag right in his smug face, but she knew that would get her in huge trouble. So she just said, must have, and got onto the bus. Cammy followed quickly behind her, and after she was on the bus, the door slid closed and the bus lifted up. Hurry, Cammy. I don't know if he will. She bit her tongue as she caught herself on an empty seat, and a small taste of blood filled her mouth. I hate that old jerk. That's it. I'm doing something about him. She had turned around and started to move back to the front of the bus, but Cammy stood in her way. Move. I'm going to let him have it. Chrissy tried to push her way past, but her friend wouldn't let her get by. Let him have what? Just sit down. Cammy started to push Chrissy back into the empty seat she had just caught herself on. What's coming to him? That's what. Let me go unless you've got muffins. Cammy looked around the bus, sighed, and let Chrissy go, but had still not gotten out of the way. If you want to get even more attention today, then that's your call. Chris began looking around her at all the people on the bus, and she noticed that every person was looking at her. She could feel her face start to get warm and immediately sat down as low as she could get into the seat. See, that wasn't so hard, now was it? Cammy asked as she sat down and nudged Chrissy in the arm. I hate this bus with a fury. Chrissy mumbled into her hands that were now covering her face. Exactly. Too easy. Cammy said in a perky tone. Chrissy hated when she did that, almost as much as she loved it. Okay, it wasn't so bad. He's just a really annoying old man, she said as she finally pulled her hands away from her face. Yeah, I know what you mean, she said as she started looking through her bag. But maybe this will make you feel better. She pulled another muffin wrapped in plastic out of her bag and held it out to Chrissy. What? You said you didn't have any more. You lied to me. You never lie. She started to take it, but Cammy's hurt-filled face made her stop. You think I lied? I just wanted to surprise you. Chrissy couldn't help but laugh a little. Yeah, well, lie or not, I'm very surprised. She took the muffin and started unwrapping its chocolatey goodness. She'd just gotten the last piece of clear plastic off of it when suddenly something hit her in the back of the head, startling her and causing her to drop the muffin. The sweetness, it fell into the bus floor and rolled under the seat, catching untold amounts of gross along the way. No! Stupid hands! Stupid bus! Stupid... She looked at the object that would hit her, now laying between her and the window. Can? What the? It was a regular empty soda can, crushed up and twisted. But where did it come from? She peeked her head over the back of the seat and looked around, her eyes resting on a group of 3 boys laughing to themselves. One of them looked our way and saw her looking back at them. He whispered something to the other 2, who stopped laughing, and they all ducked down behind their seats. Chrissy got up as high as she could into her seat, able to see their hair only a couple of seats back. Hey, what's the big idea? You guys think something is funny? The younger kids in the seat behind her looked at each other, worried that they would get caught up in a big kid fight. The boy who first saw her, peeked his head up, looking scared. On closer look, the boy couldn't have been more than 13, barely even in the above school. It was nothing. He looked back as whispering was heard behind him. Yeah, right. I heard you laughing. You ruined my breakfast, and now you're laughing about it. The kid looked absolutely terrified now. In her mind, an absolute admission of guilt. No, I promise. They were laughing at me, and I was laughing along. Chrissy felt her anger snapped as she stood up and yelled. Seriously? If you're going to be a jerk and treat people like garbage, at least have the guts to not lie about it. She threw the can at him, missing wildly, but proving her point at least. My muffin is on the floor because of you. She sat down low in the seat again and pulled her shirt up over her face. Cammy patted her on top of the head. Yeah, that was definitely smooth. It took everything Chrissy had not to start crying right there. But she didn't want to give in this early. Please, please, please tell me you actually do have another one. I want the surprise now. Cammy gently rubbed Chrissy on the back. Sorry, I was going to save that one for you to have at lunch, but figured you were having a bad morning and could use it now. I really don't have any more right now. Chrissy made a moaning sound as she leaned her head against the seat in front of them. I was really looking forward to it. Cammy looked past Chrissy, out the windows, at all of the below school students being let off the bus. We're almost to the above school. You could order breakfast inside, Cammy suggested, trying to be helpful. Will they have your muffins? Chrissy asked in a sad tone. I'm pretty sure they'll have muffins. I haven't been to school breakfast since I started making mine all the time. Chrissy pulled her shirt back off her face and looked at Cammy. Yeah, but will they have your muffins? Cammy laughed a little before responding. No, of course they won't have my muffins. They're mine. Chrissy shoved her bag in her face and mumbled something that couldn't be understood. As the bus pulled up in front of the school, it slowed to a stop and gently lowered to the ground beside the walkway. Hey, we're here, Cammy said as she shook Chrissy lightly by the shoulder. Can we go home yet? Chrissy asked as she pulled her face away from her bag. No, we have to go inside first, Chrissy said as she stood up, trying to pull Chrissy up with her. All above school students may exit the bus except for those 2, Mr. Cohen said, pointing at Chrissy and Cammy. What? Why? Chrissy yelled, jumping to her feet. She heard someone stifle a laugh somewhere behind her and started to turn around, expecting to see the kids from earlier. But as she did, she saw him getting off the bus with the same group he'd been sitting with. She turned her head around, trying to figure out who it was, but when she saw the person she should have suspected to begin with. You threw it, didn't you, Donovan? She yelled at the guy in the back of the bus. What? Me? Of course not. He made a big show of waving his hands around, acting innocent, which no one would ever believe. What is wrong with you? He snorted a little when she asked this. With me? Not a thing. Can't you tell? He stood up and started to walk forward in the bus. She knew he had to walk past them to get off the bus, but she was getting grossed out. That he was getting closer to them. Yeah, keep telling yourself that, creep. No girl would want to go near you, she said defiantly as he was walking past, but as she did, he stopped beside their seat. Oh, really? I can be very persuasive, and I don't take no for an answer. He leaned down right in Cammie's face, making her back into Chrissy in the seat. Hey, get off the bus. I need to talk to these two, or be done for the morning. Hurry up. Old Mr. Cohen had actually saved the day. Yeah, Donovan, get off the bus, Chrissy yelled, flicking her hand like she was shooing him away. It's Don, he said with a glare towards Chrissy. See you later, he said with a creepy smile towards Cammie. That's just gross. Why didn't you say anything to him? Chrissy was looking at Cammie, who had turned pale and was shaking slightly. She didn't say anything, just stared forward until Donovan had gotten off the bus and Mr. Cohen closed the door. Okay, you two seem to be close problems on my watch. Standing up, yelling, fighting, throwing trash, and worst of all, littering. He held up each finger on his hand as he listed them off. Oh, come on. Someone threw a can at us and I was returning it, Chrissy complained. I don't care. I saw you throw it and I heard you say you dropped a muffin on my floor too. If I had it my way, you'd be cleaning this bus from top to bottom, but then the school would say I was going to be too harsh again. It's not ethical to tie up children, blah, blah, blah. He held his hands up to his face in fists, mocking someone crying. Chrissy couldn't help but shiver as she thought the old man might lose it and try to kill them over a muffin. Pick up all the garbage, throw it in the can, and get off my bus, he said as he walked back to the driver's seat, pulling a slim black trash can from beside his seat and placing it in front of the door. Chrissy looked around and saw paper, bottles, someone's jacket that had been left behind. No sign of the can she'd thrown or the muffin she'd lost. I don't see our trash, just everyone else's. She looked up and through the mirror over his seat, she could see the old man leaned his seat back and closed his eyes. Hey, what are we supposed to do if we can't find our trash? He opened his eyes and looked at her in his reflection. I said pick up the garbage. It's not my problem if yours isn't there. She wanted to shove every piece of trash down his throat. You can't be serious. We're going to be late for class. He laughed but kept his eyes closed this time. Well, you better hurry then.